You ever work at a place where everyone walks right past you, until suddenly they can't stop staring? Where your name's been on a security badge for months, but people still call you buddy or maintenance guy? Jason Statham had. He was 3 months into the night shift at LynxTech Logistics, a sleek glass tower in Austin, Texas, filled with 20-something engineers, touchscreen everything, and a vending machine that charged $5 for sparkling water. Jason didn't drink sparkling water. He brought his own from home in an old stainless steel bottle that once belonged to his brother. On paper, Jason was just another single dad with too many bills and too little sleep. But if you looked closer, you'd notice his mop strokes had military precision. That he always knew exactly where every exit door and fire alarm panel were. That when the elevators froze during that storm 2 weeks ago, he was the one who opened them before the emergency crew arrived. But no one looked closer. Not at the guy who changed trash bags and didn't talk much. He worked while the building slept, started at 7:30 p.m., ended around 4 o'clock a.m., then took the city bus home to his daughter, Ellie, who always greeted him with a cereal box in one hand and a crayon in the other. Jason lived for those mornings, even if his back ached, even if the pay barely covered rent, because after the things he'd seen and done, this quiet, unassuming life, it was peace. Or at least it used to be, until the problem happened. It started on a Tuesday night. Jason was mopping the floor outside the 14th floor server hub, the oxygen chamber, as the engineers called it. Inside, half the team was pacing like trapped raccoons in a vending machine light. Jason kept his eyes low, earbuds in, pretending to be halfway through a podcast. But the yelling pierced through. That logic tree is recursive. It's bouncing the payload back into its own failsafe. We can't roll back now, Ben. It's already propagated. I swear to God if we don't fix this before board review. Then came the sound of someone throwing a chair. Jason flinched, not from fear, but from muscle memory. He'd heard louder things in worse places, but what made him pause was the sentence that came next. We've spent $200 million, and this thing can't route a forklift without crashing. He kept mopping. Then paused by a vent shaft, cracked open just enough to catch the echo of more words. The neural loop's corrupt. It's trying to correct itself using flawed logic, like teaching a dog to fix its own leash. Another voice snapped. If you've got better ideas, say them. Jason closed his eyes. Let the sentence echo once, twice, then exhaled through his nose. He didn't want to speak, didn't plan to. But sometimes a mechanic hears an engine knock, and their hands just itch. He turned the corner, knocked gently on the door frame. 7 engineers turned. Most of them blinked at the sight of a guy holding a mop. Jason spoke softly. You're not isolating the weights between routing nodes and conflict resolution. You're letting the system treat deadlocks like variables. That's why it keeps tripping over itself. Silence. He added, you're not teaching the dog to fix the leash. You're handing it a second leash made of peanut butter. One engineer, the youngest looking, tilted his head. Wait, that makes sense. The others didn't move. Jason gave a small nod, backed out, and went back to his mop. Didn't look back once. Quick question, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. And hey, if this story made you raise your eyebrows and whisper, did that janitor just debug a multi-million-dollar AI in one sentence? Hit that subscribe button. Watch till the end, because what happens next might change how you look at the quietest guy in the building, forever. Inside the server room, the youngest engineer, Jordan, opened a console and isolated the node clusters. He followed Jason's logic, adjusted the weights manually, reset the learning index, reran the simulation, and watched as the system corrected itself. The mainframe stopped overheating, the task queue cleared, and for the first time in 11 days, the logistics model worked. Someone whispered, "What the hell just happened?" Jordan whispered back, "That guy, he just saved us." Another engineer frowned. "Saved us? He's the janitor." Jordan stared at the screen. No, he's something else. Jason didn't return to the 14th floor for the rest of the night. He finished his route, polished the elevators, replaced a bulb in the underground parking level, then clocked out like always. As he waited at the bus stop, his phone buzzed, a message from his daughter's school. Reminder, field trip payment due tomorrow. Jason looked at the balance in his bank app, then closed the screen. He'd figure it out, he always did. The next morning, Jordan burst into the CTO's office. "I know how to fix the loop." The CTO blinked. "Excuse me," Jordan explained everything, the weights, the routing error, the janitor. The CTO laughed. "You want me to believe the man mopping our floors rewrote our AI logic?" Jordan pulled up the logs, showed the fix, showed the result. The CTO froze. "Get his name. Now." But when HR pulled the roster, there was no Jason Statham listed under any contractor or vendor. Janitorial services were outsourced. The ID number on his badge belonged to someone else, a man who'd quit 2 months earlier. There was no record of Jason ever being hired, no tax form, no background check, no emergency contact, just a name, a face, and a fix worth $200 million. By noon, the story spread. They called him the ghost debugger, the mystery janitor. A Reddit thread popped up. "Who is the mop-wielding genius at LynxTech?" Some said he was an ex-Google prodigy. Others claimed CIA. One person swore he once dismantled a coffee machine just to make it stronger. But no one knew where he went or how to find him. And Jason was home, braiding his daughter's hair, heating soup on a stove that clicked twice before it lit, and pretending nothing had changed. Because for him, it hadn't, not yet, but it would, by 8:10 a.m. The office was electric, the kind of morning where no one really sat down. They hovered behind chairs, half-sipped coffee, pretended to check emails while reading the same Slack message over and over. "We're back online. Logistics framework debugged. Code rollback not required. No signature, no explanation, just a miracle in plain text." Jordan sat at his desk, looking like a guy who'd seen a ghost write a gospel in assembly language. Beside him, 3 engineers whispered, "He fixed it." But how? Dude, he had a mop. Upstairs in the executive suite, CTO Maribel wasn't smiling. She'd sunk 2 years into the AI division, fought for budget, talked down board members who said automation was a bubble. And now, some nobody with a maintenance badge and a cryptic one-liner just walked in and rewired the backbone of their tech. She tapped her pen against her coffee cup until it chipped, then called HR. "Pull everything you've got on janitorial contractors. I want shift logs, invoices, badge logs, every name tied to floor access in the past 60 days. The HR rep stammered, "But his name's not even in the system." Mara's pen froze. "Then find the name it should be under." Meanwhile, Jason sat in a folding chair inside a sunlit living room no bigger than most people's closets. His daughter, Ellie, was drawing a dinosaur blue crayon, upside-down wings, 4.5 legs. "Is that a dragon sour?" Jason asked. Ellie grinned. "No, it's you." He raised an eyebrow. "I have wings," she nodded. "Only when you fix stuff." Jason smiled, not a laugh, just a soft curve, the kind that only comes from knowing what you gave up to get to this moment. Then he checked the time, backpack on, lunch packed, back to work. He arrived 10 minutes early, same clothes, same mop, same badge. As he scanned in, the night security guy gave a half-wave. Jason nodded once, hit the elevator, and rode to the top floor, not to clean, just to look. The skyline was sharp, clean lines, glass towers, moving pieces. He watched the city for exactly 48 seconds, then turned and got to work like nothing happened. Downstairs, Maribel pulled up a report from 2 years ago, an incident involving a defense subcontractor, non-disclosure agreement, redacted names, but buried in the language. Civilian contractor identified as JS, rewired compromised communication uplink during active field extraction. Another report, identified anomaly solved prior to escalation. Unknown individual walked off-site before debrief. And then a photo, fuzzy, but the same jawline, same stance. Same Jason. Mara's hand froze on the mouse. What the hell? Quick question, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. And hey, if this story made you mutter, they're gonna try and chase this guy like he's a ghost with a toolbox, hit that subscribe button. You'll want to stick around till the end, because what happens next could change how you define qualified forever. Jordan tried to find Jason during lunch, checked the supply closet, the break room, the basement-level janitor locker. Nothing. At one point, he even left a sticky note on the 14th floor. Hey, if you ever want a job that pays more than gum money, call me. He left his number. Jason found it 4 hours later. Read it, folded it, put it in his back pocket, didn't call. HR looped in legal by 4 p.m. Legal freaked out by 4:06 because Jason had no employment record, no waiver, no background check, no liability coverage. If investors found out a guy with zero clearance touched critical software, lawsuits could fly. One HR director asked, "Do we tell the board?" The room went silent. Then Mara said, "No, we find him. Then we figure out what we're telling." That night, Jason got a knock at his garage. He lived in the back unit of a small triplex, single bulb over the door, no name on the mailbox. The woman wore a LynxTech badge clipped to her hip. Corporate blazer. Nice shoes, thin smile. "You're Jason," he wiped grease off his hands with a towel. "Who's asking?" "I'm from Strategic Talent." Jason didn't blink. "I'm from Wipe Up Spills and Don't Ask Questions, LLC. She smiled tighter. "We just want to understand what you saw and how you saw it." Jason raised an eyebrow. "And if I say no, then I say this door stays open a little longer than it should." Jason leaned against the frame. "You're not a cop. You're not my boss. You're not even invited." She paused. Then, carefully, "We can offer you something better than a mop." Jason considered that, then quietly asked, "Is that what you told the last guy who fixed something you couldn't?" The woman's eyes narrowed. But Jason had already stepped back inside. Door closed. Conversation over. The next day, his badge didn't work. He tried the main entrance. Beep. Red light. Tried the loading dock. Beep, beep, beep. Then a voice came through the intercom. Sir, your clearance was revoked." Jason didn't argue, didn't raise his voice, just nodded once and walked away. Inside, the engineers were buzzing. Jordan cornered Mara. "You locked him out." "It's protocol." "He saved us. And he did it without permission." Jordan leaned in. "You're scared." Mara's jaw clenched. "I'm protecting the company." "No, you're protecting your name on the patent." Silence. She didn't deny it. Jason went back home, put the badge in a shoebox, poured a cup of instant coffee, sat on the back step and watched the sun die over the city skyline. He didn't cry, didn't sigh, just looked down at his palms, steady, worn, still calloused in the shape of a wrench, because even when they strip your badge, they can't touch your hands. And the man who fixes things, he doesn't stop just because someone else forgot how to see him. Mara Bell made one mistake. She forgot how fast stories move when they're too good to stay quiet. The morning after Jason's badge was deactivated, someone posted on the company's internal Slack thread. He fixed $200M of bad code with one sentence. Why's he not allowed back in the building? No name, no context, just enough mystery. By lunch, the thread had over 200 replies. Some doubting, some defending, some quietly admitting they'd seen the man too, in the hallways, on cameras, near server banks when no one else was around. One of the junior engineers, Rachel, 2 years in, still believed in unicorns, asked the question everyone else was too afraid to. "So, who was he?" Jordan didn't answer. He just attached a still frame from a hallway cam. Jason walking past a fire exit, mop in one hand, a coffee someone left behind in the other. That was all it took. The comments lit up. "That's the guy who reset the elevator switch during the storm." "Wait, he's real. Bro, that guy helped me with a wiring fault on 12. He knew the voltage blind." Then someone from another department chimed in, he's not a janitor. My uncle served with him in Afghanistan. Said he rebuilt a calm tower under fire when their tech team froze. That comment was flagged and deleted within 6 minutes, but by then, it had already been screenshotted. At LynxTech HQ, things were getting awkward. An investor called the front desk asking about the freelance systems analyst who patched the loop. The receptionist stumbled, forwarded it to legal. Legal fumbled, forwarded it to Mara. Mara didn't fumble, she froze. She called an emergency board meeting at 4:30 p.m., tried to get ahead of it, tried to frame it like a temporary contractor glitch. But then the CFO asked, if he was a glitch, why did he fix the most expensive failure in company history? And the CEO, normally a ghost, leaned forward and said, I want to meet him. Mara hesitated. He's not with us anymore. The room went silent. Meanwhile, across town, Jason was adjusting the brakes on his neighbor's aging Hyundai. He didn't ask for payment. Just said the pads were cheaper than new rotors and left it at that. Inside, Ellie was reading aloud from a dog-eared fantasy book, voicing each character with her best attempt at accents that all somehow turned British. Jason listened from the porch, wiped grease from his fingers, looked up at the stars and smiled. He liked this world. It wasn't fancy, but it was his. Quick question, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. And hey, if this story made you pause and whisper, some men don't need job titles to make their mark, hit that subscribe button. You'll want to stay till the end, because what happens next proves you don't need a corner office to be indispensable. The next morning, Jason got a knock at his garage again, but this time, it wasn't a middle manager in a rental car. It was the CEO of LynxTech himself. No bodyguard, no camera crew, just a man in his 50s with a quiet suit and a tired face. He held out his hand. Jason didn't shake it. Just wiped his palms on a towel and nodded once. I know why you're here, the CEO smiled. Then you know I'm not here to fire you. Jason didn't smile back. I already quit. I know. The CEO glanced around. This your place? Jason shrugged. Borrowed peace. The man nodded. I was at a plant in Virginia once. 1998. We lost a whole production line to a software loop, called in every engineer we had. One guy fixed it, wasn't even on payroll. He was a guy running cables. Jason didn't speak. The CEO looked at him. I never forgot that guy. Quiet. Hands like a sculptor, said one sentence, saved the line. I've been looking for him ever since. Jason raised an eyebrow. You think that guy was me? The CEO smiled again. I know it was. Inside the house, Ellie peeked through the blinds, whispered, is that the ice cream man? Jason chuckled. No, baby, just someone asking for help. The CEO didn't offer Jason a job. He didn't need to. What he offered was access. He reopened Jason's badge, flagged him with executive-level clearance, and gave him a title that didn't exist before, Infrastructure Consultant, Autonomous Division. Jason asked what that meant. The CEO replied, whatever you want it to. Jason showed up that night, same clothes, same walk, but this time, everyone looked, some whispered. One guy actually clapped, then stopped, realizing he was the only one doing it. Jason went to the server room, sat beside Jordan, looked at the new model on screen, said, you're feeding the wrong weight to the confidence curve. Jordan blinked. You didn't even look at it. Jason smiled. I listened. By 1 a.m. The new version was running smoother than anything they'd built before. Jordan turned to him. Where did you learn all this? Jason sipped his coffee, said quietly, places I don't miss. The next morning, HR filed an internal release. Please welcome Jason Statham, our newest team advisor. But by then, everyone already knew. He was the guy who fixed what $200 million couldn't, the guy who made silence a superpower, the guy who looked at a mess and saw the gears beneath. And somewhere in the back of the company intranet, someone uploaded a new badge photo for Jason. He's not smiling, but if you look closely, there's just enough light in his eyes to tell you he knows exactly what he's doing. Jason never wanted a desk. He still didn't. Even after they gave him clearance, a custom badge, and a consulting office 2 floors above the AI lab, he only used the room to store a duffel bag and his thermos. Instead, he kept showing up at night. Same hallway, same mop, still clean, still in his hand. No one made fun of it anymore. Jordan once asked why. Jason just said, "Old habits wipe cleaner than new ones," and kept moving. For a week, things ran smooth. The code stack held. The new models trained twice as fast. Investors got quiet, which in the tech world meant happy. And Mara Bell. She didn't say a word to Jason, but she watched him. Every time he passed her office window, every time engineers started quoting his insights before hers, every time the board asked for his feedback before checking her slides, something festered. Not rage, not fear. Just resentment, that quiet kind that wraps itself in a suit and waits. And then came the opportunity. It was a Thursday. The team was running a live demo of the new logistics framework, the system Jason had helped fine-tune from the inside out. The pitch: military supply chain efficiency, automated routing, real-time inventory adjustments, all optimized through learning algorithms that couldn't be fooled. Mara was leading the presentation. Jason stayed back. He didn't like rooms with cameras, didn't like boardroom snacks or bottled words. But as the lights dimmed, he stood just outside the hallway and listened. At 4:31 p.m., the model crashed, live, screen froze, then a red banner. Recursive feedback loop detected. Abort protocol initiated. Jordan panicked. "That's not the final build." Mara's voice cut in. "It is. I pushed it this morning." Jason blinked. He had run final diagnostics the night before. It wasn't the same build. It was a fork, an older, untested branch, one they had discarded for good reason. Jason stepped into the room, calmly walked to the console. Jordan hissed, "Don't." But Jason had already plugged in a drive, rebooted the system, used a single override line. The screen reset. 5 seconds later, the live system returned to full function, stable, demo complete. Mara stood frozen. Jason didn't look at her. He addressed the room. "The build failed because it was the wrong one," a board member asked. "Then why was it pushed?" Jason didn't answer. He didn't have to. Jordan did. "She bypassed our deployment protocol." Quick question: where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. And hey, if you've ever seen someone keep their cool while the entire room was breaking down, hit that subscribe button. Because what happens next proves. The person everyone underestimated isn't just the smartest in the room, he's the calmest under fire. That night, HR scheduled a closed door with Myra. No cameras, no statements. But the next morning, her office was empty, boxed, wiped, gone. The hallway felt quieter, cleaner. Jason kept showing up. Still no desk, still no meetings. But now, people listened. They didn't nod like robots, they asked. They stayed curious. Because Jason never made them feel dumb. He just made them want to understand more. And then something happened, not to Jason, but to Rachel, the young engineer who first asked, "Who is he?" She got pulled from her project. Demoted, reassigned to hardware testing. No warning, just an email. Jason found her in the break room 2 days later, eyes puffy, pretending not to cry behind a vending machine. "Something spill?" he asked. She smiled weakly. "No, just a reroute." Jason leaned against the wall. "Sipped coffee. You step on the wrong person's ego." She hesitated. "I said I wanted to help with your modeling package. One of the execs said I should slow down and stay in my lane." Jason said nothing for a long time. Then, "You want in?" Rachel blinked. "On what?" He sipped again. "My next fix." They met after hours, just like he'd done with Jordan. No PowerPoints, just wiring diagrams, simulations, and notes scribbled on the backs of coffee sleeves. Rachel asked smart questions, didn't guess, didn't bluff, she just listened. And Jason watched. Watched the way she picked things up fast, not because she was brilliant, but because she stayed open. A week later, they deployed a new routing feature, Rachel's code. Clean, fast, elegant. Jason stood behind her as the board reviewed the results, didn't say a word. Just nodded once when she hit enter. Her badge was reinstated, her title restored, she got her project back. That night she brought Jason a coffee, one of the fancy ones, with foam. He looked at it like it was an alien artifact. "I don't drink swirly milk." She laughed. Then got quiet. "Why'd you help me?" Jason shrugged. "Some systems break loud, others break quiet." She tilted her head. "What's that mean?" Jason didn't answer, just tapped the rim of his old thermos and walked away. Weeks passed. Jason never got promoted, never asked. He just became part of the building, like an HVAC unit that worked perfectly, but you never quite saw. When it rained, he'd mop the marble lobby without being asked. When code failed, he'd murmur something that sounded like a hunch and fixed it within an hour. And every so often, someone new would show up, someone overlooked, someone written off, and Jason would watch, wait, then say, "You see that glitch," and begin again. He didn't need credit, he didn't need applause, he just needed one person to listen. Because once, he'd been the one holding the mop, with 1,000 answers in his head and nowhere to put them. Now, he made space for people like him, people who fixed what others thought was broken forever.